How do you scale your system for finding more deal flow so that you can ultimately originate transactions in a very predictable manner, make more money, close more of them, and so on and so forth? Let's break that system down in this video. My name is Marco Palmera, founder of Ulysses, and our company does exactly that. We originate deals on behalf of private equity, search funds, investment bankers. We build the system that they need to use in order to find deals, nurture these opportunities, and ultimately close more transactions so that they can, again, allocate all their time towards the last part of the process, closing these deals, making the money, and getting the ROI out of the transaction. So I want to discuss how you can scale this system that ultimately brings you these opportunities, because there are a lot of folks that have some misconception around how you get deal flow. Of course, we live in operate in an industry where most of the people believe that everything is relationship based, and there's part of truth in that. But what is also truth is that you're leaving a lot of money on the table if you're just relying on your own existing relationships. And I talked about that extensively in other videos. Go watch them. If you have doubts about it, they will give you much more insight around why you should also have other ways to originate deal flow outside of your existing relationships. But let's just talk with the guys that already have a clear understanding of that, and they understand that you need to have multiple ways to originate deals. Now, you might be having your existing referral network, brokers that you're working with, your own off-market system that does outreach to motivated sellers or prospective sellers, so to speak. How do you scale that, provided it is generating results? Well, first of all, there's one thing that we need to understand and clarify, because when people think about scale and they think about growing, they think about putting more volume in, they might get the perception that what we're doing is just blasting a lot of people, or just spamming people fundamentally, and just overwhelming people with stuff. But that's total opposite to what we're trying to do, because that is just killing um, you know everything that we do. It is counterproductive. It is not conducive to results, and really not what we want to do when we go ahead and grow our existing infrastructure. What we're trying to do when we talk about scaling is creating a system that can give us coverage and that can fundamentally accelerate the process that we run so that we can get to the end result much quicker. Now, I'll give you an example for that in a second, and some of the things that we do when we scale these systems. But I think the most important clarification is that, again, people think about scale incorrectly because they feel, okay, I'm just going to spam a lot of people, and that's not really what I want to do. I'm never going to say that you have to do that in order to get more deal flow. And another thing that is kind of tied to this type of behavior is the idea that people believe that maybe they operate in a very tight market, so they don't really need to accomplish scale. Maybe they say, okay, I'm just buying businesses in the healthcare sector in the state of Florida, so I don't really need that much scale because I'm operating in a very tight market, and there are only so many businesses available out there. Again, that's not the right way to look at things, because there are predictable ways to tap that market multiple times without sounding redundant and without looking like a spammy person, that enable you to achieve results much quicker, instead of just thinking that your market is limited, so you're just going to take a slow approach and in hope that pays out because you're just operating in a tiny environment. So let me just give you some examples of that, and then we talk about why we want to scale, when we want to scale, and how we want to scale our system. Well, first of all, everything that we do needs to be working. So if we're talking about off-market origination, for example, you might have a system that sends emails, LinkedIn, phone calls, voicemails, SMSs, letters to people, and that system might be producing X results. I don't know, let's say every 100 emails you send out, you get 5 responses, and 2 of them are positive, 1 of them converts into a meeting. So you know that the process is fundamentally producing results and is bringing motivated prospects into your funnel, independently of whether these guys are ready to take action now, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months in the future. So the first thing is, okay, is what I'm doing generating results? If yes, then we need to think about how we can replicate that and scale that so that we can get more of that results in our system faster. If it's not working, of course, we need to look at what we're currently doing and fix that, because there's no point in scaling something, and volume has never solved any problem unless you're just doing very, very, very tiny output. So two mistakes people make. Sometimes they are convinced that the issue is just more volume, but they're just not good enough. So the system is not really producing any results. So they need to fix the system first. In another case, what they might be doing is right, but they're just doing such a tiny little volume for it to pay out that they're not really able to see the positive outcomes out of it fast enough. Example, you send cold emails for finding motivated sellers and you send 10 emails a day. Even if what you do is perfect and you have a killer message, killer proposition, it's going to take you fucking forever to get a yes from somebody. I don't care what you think and how good you think your message is. If you just send 10 emails a day, or I don't know, 5 LinkedIn messages a day, or 2 letters a day, it's going to take you a long, long time. And so we need to realize that in that case, we need to add a little bit more volume into the system to make sure we see if what you're doing is actually working, not working, whatever. In other cases, let's say you're sending 1,000 emails a day to motivated sellers, or 100 LinkedIn messages a day, or 100 letters a day to motivated sellers, and you're getting no results, then in that case, scale is really not going to help you. You need to fix what you're doing, because volume is already decent enough for you to see some traction if what you're doing is right. And if it's not producing, then no point in adding volume. You're not going to get anything out of it. So I think those are the first few things that we want to be aware of. Now, provided we understand that, and let's say you have a system that is producing some result, then we need to look at it from 2 different perspectives, 2 different angles. First, how big is the market that you're trying to address? If it is big enough, then scale, it's just a natural way of covering all that market. So if you're targeting any healthcare company across the United States, I don't know how many might be available, let's say 40, 50,000 businesses, and you're targeting all of them indistinctively from 1 to 50 million in revenue, then the question is just how can we tap into more of these as fast as humanly possible, because we have a big target market. On the flip side, let's say that what you're doing is working again, but you're only covering a market that maybe has 5,000 businesses in it. Again, I gave you the example of Florida. Let's say home health facilities in Florida. There's a ton of them, I guess, but let's say there's only 5,000. You might say, well, I might tap into that quite quickly, so there's no point for me in scaling my system. That's incorrect, because you can target the same list multiple times using strategies that ultimately enable you to get more responses and squeeze more juice out of the same people. I'm going to talk about that in a second. So in the first instance, scale is very easy to accomplish. You have something that is working, and you just go after the entire market faster. You try to do more volume to get to all these people and get to the end result quicker, so you can get more motivated sellers into your funnel as fast as possible. In the second case, we want to touch them multiple times within a short time period so that we can get fundamentally the same outcome that we're getting in the first case, but from a more restricted list. Now, how can we do the 2 things in a very effective manner? Let's start with the first case, that is probably the easiest one for us to handle. Well, of course, we just add more prospects that are coming, that are fitting our own criteria. And then one of the things that I would always want to do when it comes to scale is I don't scale like in a scattered, in an organized way, just dumping more information or more data into a system that is already producing results. But I would want to segment what I have so that I can identify niches and sub-industries that are ultimately producing maximum results, to spot trends and maybe understand what is a place I should focus my attention on. For example, again, you're a private equity targeting any healthcare company in the United States, 1 to 50 million in revenue, and there are 50,000 businesses in it. Okay, I want to segment by revenue range, maybe by state, maybe by sub-industry, and then create separate processes of what we have that is working in the beginning, and see what is the industry, what is the revenue range, what is the state where this type of message is resonating the most, because that will tell me a lot about, well, where should I focus my attention in terms of acquisition, but also I can then double down on certain sellers, certain business owners, and maybe test something different with other people so I can achieve differentiation, because what works for somebody might not work, for others. And so the way to scale deal origination when you have a big market is by segmentation. At least that's what has worked for us very, very well. It's like if you have a big market, pick it apart by geography, revenue, sub-industry. There are tons of criteria that you can use, and then you come up with sub-lists that you can test with the same message. Some of them will work well, some of them will not work so well. The ones that work, you keep doing the same thing over and over again. The others, you don't necessarily drop. You might test different variations because maybe something else will resonate with them just as fine. And then ultimately, you arrive at a point where you might have certain sub-niches that work very, very well, and you decide to focus your attention on those to get the disproportionate results that you need, the motivated sellers that you need to ultimately close the transactions you want. So in just a few minutes, that's how you can scale if you have a big market, big target market. If you have a small target market instead, as I said, most people would believe that there's no point in scaling, but that's incorrect, because you can squeeze more juice out of the same list, out of the same people. Because think of it this way, business owners are very busy. So they might not respond to your first message, not necessarily because they're not interested, but maybe they didn't see the message. Maybe the channel you're using to reach out to them is not the right channel. Maybe that was not the right time. And there are a bunch of other reasons why they might not have replied to you. The only thing that matters when you're operating, at least in deal origination, the way we do it off market, is like when you get some sort of feedback. So if you get a yes, a no, maybe later a fuck you, whatever. If you do get some sort of feedback, then you can know for sure that this person can be categorized in a certain place. But if you get no response, you can never assume that that person is not gonna have interest in what you have to say, what you have to offer. Again, maybe he didn't read the message, maybe it was busy, maybe it was not the right time, maybe it was not the right channel, whatever. So if you have a small list, how can you connect with this person without sounding like a spammy person, without sounding like you're blasting everybody, without sounding like you constantly are in his face? First of all, multi-channel. So you have a system that connects with a person across a variety of different channels. So you make it, I would say, differentiated for him. Plus, you identify where is the channel that he might be more likely to respond in. Once you have that, you can basically communicate with the person on that channel alone. After you do multi-channel, you can also run multiple campaigns in the same channel and basically cycle people through over a 2, 3, 4 month period, explaining. Let's say you want to reach out to business owners via email. Well, if you reach out to somebody and he doesn't reply to you in January, there might be an argument for you to reach out again at the end of March or April, because in 3 months, a lot of things might have changed. The person might also not remember that you reached out in the first place. And you're not going to sound redundant if you reach out after a couple months or something like that. So there is a point in scaling the list by recycling it and re-going through the process. And you need to know how to do it, because of course, again, otherwise you're just going to look like a spammy person. But if you phrase things correctly and you always keep it relevant and value add for the person that you're reaching out to, you're not going to sound like a spammy person. In truth to be said, I mean, I'll give you an example. We ran a campaign in the state of Illinois that was very productive from the very beginning. Again, multi-channel system to find off-market deals. We got around 20 opportunities from it, I guess, in the first month or so. But then the list was almost exhausted for that particular industry that we were targeting. So we said, okay, other than using the other channels that we were already using, what can we do with the existing email channel? And after 2 months, we decided, okay, let's rerun it again with a different angle, a different proposition, similar call to action, and let's see what happens. Well, we got 12 new opportunities out of the same list with nothing that was changed other than the message. And again, 25 in the beginning, 12 more as we rerun it. It's 50% more new prospects, so to speak, that we wouldn't have gotten in the first place if we didn't run that system and we just said, okay, we exhausted the list, we're fucked, now we need to do something else. And so there is a point in scaling your list and rerunning it multiple times. And the reason why you want to scale your system in that case is because you can run these cycles more times. In some cases, you can create avatars that are part of your own business, so that not the same person is reaching out time and time again, and you ultimately have differentiation that way, and you can reach out within a short time frame. But the point is, you can go through the list multiple times and ultimately scale it that way. So instead of, I would say, instead of scaling vertically, you scale it horizontally, so to speak, and you can get more out of the same prospects. And again, this is an important point that a lot of people don't understand, because they almost operate in silos, and they think like, okay, I want to buy a business, or I want to buy assets, or I want to find more sales side client. I'm going to reach out to people in this industry. Okay, I reached out to all of them. I got X replies, we got X meetings, I got X signings, I got X LOIs, whatever. Everybody else is not interested. So now I exhausted the list. The only option I have is change industry, focus on something else. No, that's not true. First of all, again, there are all the things that I just mentioned, but plus there's the time factor that plays a huge role in the decision-making process. So a person that was not interested today, or that was not interested yesterday, might be interested in 6 months' time. So there's always a point for you to reach out to the same target audience, provided, again, you do it properly, you don't look like a spam. And that's the way you can scale a very restricted market. Now, there's some downsides to a restricted market, of course, because unless you have a system to run the list multiple times within a short time period, and we have strategies for doing that, unless you have that in place, of course, you're going to need to wait in order to rerun the process, and that might be consuming for you because maybe you have deadlines for closing deals and so on and so forth. If that is one of the challenges that you're facing, then we have a way to shorten that time frame and enable you to tap the list multiple times within a short time window. So you can check the link below if you want to review that. Of course, if you have a larger market, then your issues are not really those. The real issues would be being undifferentiated and just blasting everybody to go through the entire market as fast as possible. And that, again, can kill a lot of the opportunities that you might find. Because, again, if you have a large target market, the way you get more deal flow and you scale your system is through segmentation. But again, depending on how your system is operating and what are the type of assets that you're going after, you can deploy different strategies. Keep in mind, this is mostly for off-market deals. If you're working with brokers and references, of course, you're kind of capped because you're relying on the other person to bring you opportunities, and it's not like you can find an infinite amount of brokers or an infinite amount of referrals. Instead, if you are building your own proprietary system and you have off-market deals coming to you, then you can manage the funnel in a way that is conducive to results for you. And depending on, again, the type of market that you're going after, you can create strategies that enable you to get more deal flow over time or within a restricted period of time. So if you want to scale your deal flow process and get more opportunities faster, first of all, you need to consider what is the market that you're going after, then whether or not your message and your strategy is currently working, and then how you can take that and scale it in the right way so that you can get more results into your pipeline. You can do that on your own. If you feel that is something that is overwhelming, or you need a system built into your company that helps you achieve that, that's what we do. You can check the link below, see if there are slots available to apply and work with us. Again, a lot of it depends on your goals and objectives. It's very bespoke and there's no right solution. It really depends on a lot of variables, and based on that, a custom strategy needs to be mapped out. And that's what we do when we do the first strategy session with everybody that wants to work with us. Is like, let's understand your specific situation. How can we get you to the end results in a very predictable manner? That's how you can then understand how you can scale your efforts or build a system that delivers results and then scale it from there. So that's pretty much it. Check the link below if you want to find out more, and we'll talk in the next one.